I think it's time we finally start talking about Victor Wembanyama more. I remember I made a video about Chet not too long ago, and in that video, I said Chet was low-key a better player than Wemby, and I'm sorry for that. The Spurs are doing something I've never seen before, and I don't know why they're doing this, and I think it's been kind of hindering Wemby's performance, but yet I watch the Spurs games and I look at the box scores and something isn't right. A couple nights ago versus the Detroit Pistons, Victor Wembanyama became the youngest center in NBA history to record a triple-double. And honestly, this is just one of many great games that Wemby's been having. Over the past 5 games, he's been on a crazy stretch and it looks like he's finally coming into his own. But the crazy part that y'all don't even realize is San Antonio is hindering this man's performance. But yet, even with that, even with the Spurs kind of tanking the way he's playing, he is still dominating. So I know you guys have a lot of questions. What do I mean by hindering his performance? Well, number one, let's start with the minute restriction. Victor Wembanyama is easily the best player on the Spurs team. I don't think anyone's trying to debate that. However, Wemby's minutes does not line up with how much he should actually be getting. So far this season, Victor Wembanyama is averaging about 28 minutes per game. However, if you look at some of the games recently, it seems like that range is kind of going down to about 20 to 25 minutes. And I understand if it's a blowout. For example, the Celtics got fucking mollywopped the other night and they didn't play their starters for the entire second half because I think they were down like 30 to start. So I can see something like that. And I think the Spurs destroyed the Pistons the other night. But I'm not going to lie, even though the Spurs are bad and they're not going to do anything this year besides lose, I do think Wemby should get more minutes. I think Wemby's development should be the number one thing that the Spurs are focused on. They have a great player, and is it crazy for me to say that Wemby could be a top 15 player in the NBA next year? I know some people aren't going to want to talk about it because he's on a bad team right now, but let the Spurs rebuild. Let the Spurs get a couple solid players and make the playoffs. I'd be scared if I was the Western Conference. I've seen Wemby play, and on the defensive side, he's exactly what he was hyped up to be. He's a great rim protector. He can guard just about any position, and he is a force to be reckoned with. On the offensive side, he is one of the best drivers I've ever seen, and he knows how to use his body. That low-key might be a pause moment, but you know what I'm trying to say. Wemby has a very raw game that if he just polishes it to perfection, oh my god, this guy's gonna be scared. Now, the problem with the minute restriction is you're kind of taking away minutes, and I know it's such a simple concept, but this is what I'm trying to say. Basically, the more minutes you play, the more you're going to develop into your rookie year. However, if you take away less opportunities, well, Wemby's development time is going to go down a little bit. Now, in defense, I understand maybe you want to hold him because, you know, the team's not going to do well this year. It also is his rookie year, and he's also a very special player, so I see this more as a project than just a #1 draft pick. But what I think a lot of people need to consider is this Spurs team needs to get Wemby right, or else you never know what's going to happen. But I want to move away from the minutes restriction, and I want to talk about Wemby's teammates. I don't know if this is on purpose. I don't know if this is the Spurs just don't care because they have nothing to gain this year, but I've seen a lot of clips of Wemby's teammates just looking him off and them not really trying to let him run the offense. I get it. It is very weird for a big man to run the offense, and usually it does not work out. It is very rare that a big man can run the offense and it involves a winning team. The only example I've seen in the past couple years is Nikola Jokic. But once again, that guy is pretty much an anomaly. Oh wait, isn't Wemby an anomaly? I'm not gonna say you gotta do Wemby isolation every single play because this isn't 2K. I understand, yeah, point guards, yeah, plays. Devin Vassell, he's also a great player. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But at the end of the day, we know how good Wemby is on the offensive side. I feel like if the Spurs would just let him create his own opportunities and just let him go to work by himself, they'd be better for it. However, and I said this earlier and I'm gonna show clips, I've seen multiple clips of Wemby's teammates just not looking at him or kind of just shooting shots even though they had no right to it and it was just a bad shot. Also, the whole Jeremy Sohan point guard experiment, I don't even know what the fuck that is. If Pop is trying to purposely tank to get another top pick, you are doing a perfect job and you're the greatest coach of all time because you are nailing this whole, you know, being bad thing. Although you're not as bad as the Pistons, so I don't know. But look, I don't think anyone was going to let the Spurs be that bad. I mean, to be fair, most teams aren't usually that bad. You got to be a whole generation of ass to play that bad. But there's something that I think we need to actually discuss, and it's Wemby's untapped potential. But first, boys, if you guys are enjoying the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hey man, I know I haven't uploaded in the past couple days. It's been a lot. I'm going to explain it on my second channel if I haven't already, so make sure y'all boys check that out. But yeah, I don't want to waste a whole lot of your time, you know what I'm saying? We got a lot to talk about, so let's get back into it. Hey, did you not subscribe when I told you to subscribe? Come on, man. Can't you see I got bills to pay, man? Can't you see taxes are coming up probably? But no, all troll shit aside, let's get back to the video. Imagine you have a dog, right? You have a dog that has the opportunity to go crazy at any moment, but you have him on a leash. Well, what happens when you let that dog off the leash? So, what am I trying to say? Well, I think Pop has Wemby on a leash right now. He's not going too crazy. This minute restriction is kind of holding him back a little bit. But what happens when next season, or maybe even the season after, they get an all-star or they draft well or they get some good free agents and Pop finally says, all right, Wemby, go the fuck off. What do we think Wemby is going to become? How do we think the Spurs are going to do? Is it crazy for me to say I think Wemby with full control of the offense and be the primary leader of this defense, the Spurs are a playoff team? The Western Conference is one of the most interesting conferences in basketball, and the Spurs are also one of the best ran organizations of all time. I promise you, the idea of playing for the Spurs is not crazy. I genuinely think there are players who are going to want to come to San Antonio strictly to play for Pop and to play with Wemby. Now, who exactly? Well, I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of ways they can go. There's so many moves that can be made, the offseason, the draft, there's so many things that can happen. But the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think it's crazy if the Spurs are able to sign a big free agent in the offseason, or again, if they draft pretty well. I doubt they get the #1 pick again. It's more than likely going to Detroit, and if it doesn't, I feel so bad for that city. But I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, and I know I'm kind of a casual when it comes to NBA draft analysis because I've never really been a draft person. Not in the NFL, not NBA, never. I've never really liked the whole draft process. In fact, this is probably the first year where I've actually looked into people strictly because of Wemby. In fact, I damn near went to Summer League because of Wemby. Also, I was gonna go with Will Sotrell, but that's a whole other conversation. And look, this might just be me playing 2K, but why don't the Spurs trade their top pick for an all-star caliber player? Somebody that is going to help Wemby's development, someone that can help the Spurs actually contend. Because to be honest with you, the Spurs aren't that far away from being a great team. They just have to make a couple moves. Letting some of their younger guys develop, Wemby included, Devin Vassell, even Keldon Johnson. Get an all-star caliber player, let him dominate, let him and Wemby be a great duo. Also, maybe get better bench depth, that's definitely going to help. Because in reality, this draft class, I just don't think there's really a #1 player that absolutely stands out to me. And I think there's some guy in the G League Ignite, but all I'm going to say is that so far, and I just mean so far, I haven't seen a good player come out of G League Ignite. Scoot Henderson, he was the big guy to come out of G League Ignite this year. He has been garbage so far. And I'm not saying that he's going to be garbage for his entire career, but I'm sorry, they don't really have a good reputation right now. So if I'm the Spurs, you trade a top pick for an all-star caliber player, let Wemby cook, let this new player cook, and then you could possibly contend in a couple years. Regardless, there's a lot of moves this team could make, but there's one thing that I honestly know. Victor Wembanyama is one hell of a player, and he has untapped potential. And it is up to Wemby if he wants to use that potential this year or next year. The only thing I can confidently say is that Victor Wembanyama will break the NBA. That might have been kind of corny, I'm not gonna lie.